giving. I got to thank you guys, man. Y'all are a giving church. And because you're a giving church, we're seeing God do all kinds of amazing things that aren't happening just in these four walls. We may not be the biggest church in the world. We're new and we're growing, but we're having an impact that goes far beyond these four walls. And I think that there are countless people in this room that are a testimony to the fact that when you give, He really does open up the windows of heaven in your life, and that you cannot outgive God ever, 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 ever. I've tried, and it doesn't work. The more you give, the more He blesses. I don't understand it. Okay, if I understood it, then I could explain it to you better. I don't. No one in this room fully understands it. It just happens. So thank you guys for your faithfulness. Dear Heavenly Father, man, we thank you for this group of believers that is faithful in their commitment to propelling your kingdom forward, to sharing your gospel within these four walls, within this community, and all the way around the world. God, we ask that you would bless these gifts, bless these givers. In your name we pray. Amen. I want to reiterate what Michael announced about the circles. That's Wednesday the 20th at 6 o'clock. That's an important day for this church. It's been something that we've been working towards and building to. And as Michael announced this morning, he and Bridget are going to take over our youth. Come on. Now, Michael wouldn't brag on himself, so I'm going to do it for him. Okay, here's what Michael didn't tell you. Okay, is that he and Bridget have extensive history in ministry. He's a licensed minister. He was a pastor for, 10-ish years in full-time ministry. And he and Bridget actually grew about the biggest, probably the largest, I'm going to say about, just to be safe, but the largest youth group that Van Buren has ever known. Okay, so God didn't send us some chump. All right? He sent us the best. And I'm beyond thankful for them. They minister in our lives and have partnered with us in ministry and have sold out and are sacrificing big time to come and help us propel this thing forward because we understand the importance of that youth group. And so we're excited. As he said, they're going to be up front after service. Take a chance to meet them. Say hi to them. Tell them that you love them, that you're thankful for them. If you have a youth age kid, introduce them. If you have a youth age kid that maybe isn't here right now, go ahead and meet them as a parent and let's make that connection because it's going to be a great thing. It's really a fantastic opportunity and a huge blessing to Merge that Michael and Bridget are here and committed to doing that. So it's incredible stuff. We're in this series, Surround, and I would tell you that this is the last week of it, but I'm not entirely sure that it is. We've got Father's Day next week. And so if you're a father, I want you to be here. I think that's next Sunday. I said that. I think it's next Sunday. It is next Sunday. We've got root beer and beef jerky for you dads, so it doesn't get better than that. We special ordered Dad's root beer. You know what I'm talking about? Dad's root beer? Yeah, it's Father's Day. We're clever like that. Watch yourself. Had to order on Amazon. They don't sell in stores anymore. Thank God for Amazon. But we want you to be here. Now, I was nice on Mother's Day. You know, I encourage moms because I love moms. I'm going to challenge dads. So I'm just going to warn you. Dads, come in ready to be challenged because we've got a shortfall of dads being dads. Right? And dads need to be equipped and they need to be empowered and they need to be loved on just like moms do. But dads are different. Okay? You got to hit a guy in his mouth or he doesn't respond. You know, us guys, we don't respond to the loving, tender kindness, like the ladies do. You love on a lady, they'll do anything for you. You love on a guy, they never talk to you again. So I'm excited about that. So make sure that you're here. Invite somebody to be with you. It's a great opportunity. If there's a dad in your life that isn't here, and I will tell you there are lots of dads that don't come to church. It's just a fact. Men don't come to church as much as women. Men don't serve in the same way that women do. Men don't even give in the same way that women do. Men won't respond in worship the same way that women do. And so we've got to be a church that says, you know what, we're going to defy those odds. We're going to be different. And God has sent a bunch of incredible dads. I understand that, but we want to be even better, myself included. And we want to be able to go and get dads that aren't here, that aren't being the spiritual leader of their home, because that's what we're called to be. We think that means boss, but it really means a spiritual leader. They're two different things. We'll talk about that. But this has been a great series. We've talked about all kinds of different things. And this week we're going to jump straight into what is a familiar passage for many of you. It is we're going to read the version in Mark, chapter 6. We're going to read verses 30 through 44. This is Jesus feeding the 5,000 is kind of the common title of the passage that we are all familiar with. There's some important things to note here. Other than the resurrection, there's only one other miracle that is referenced in all 4 Gospels. Okay? So this is one of only 3 miracles referenced in all 4 of the Gospels. So we have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the 4 apostles that shared their different viewpoints of the life of Jesus, that share the story. So this one is obviously important because all 4 of them took the time to say, we're going to write this down and we're going to talk about it and we're going to explain it. So this one is Mark's version. I'm going to jump right in. It says that the apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. So Jesus has been sending out his guys and empowering them to share the gospel and to teach. And so they're coming back like good stewards and they're like, hey, check out all that we've done, man. We've been doing good work that you called us to do, and we're back and probably tired, right? Because that tends to be how God's word operates. And so make sure you're here next week because we're going to talk about being tired and how that's actually a good thing sometimes and how that's important. But it says, then because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, come with me by yourselves to get a quiet place and get some rest. First of all, how incredible is it that in this moment they have so many people coming, right? There are people coming from everywhere that are desperate for the gospel. I think sometimes we read a passage like this and we think, yeah, back then, man, they really wanted Jesus and it's just different today. It's actually not. Okay, we have a world that is desperate and eager for Jesus. They just don't always know it yet. That's why we exist. Is to go and to share it and to find unique and creative ways to reach them and to have an impact. It says, so they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had what? Compassion on them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. I'm going to stop here. This is kind of a side note. This wasn't necessarily planned. Okay? But this week, we had a couple of celebrities take their own lives, and it shed a light on suicide. And I know that that's offensive to some people, that the celebrities get all of the celebrity status, and that we have lots of people that do it. And so I'm not talking about it because it's celebrities, but I think it's a beautiful opportunity to just quickly hit on something. And that is that suicide is a real problem. Okay? It's a real issue in the world. The church has done a really bad job, myself included, of running from it, not to it. Okay? So we have a duty, and I love this in this passion. Notice what Jesus does. What's he have? Compassion. What combats compassion? Complacency. So often in our everyday lives, we're surrounded with so many blessings and so many great people and so many strong and spiritual people and a great church like this that God is in and working in and moving in. What happens is we become complacent, so we're no longer compassionate. You want to know what will combat suicide? Not me, not you, but Jesus. What was Jesus? Compassion. We have a world that's desperate for the compassion of Jesus. I can't fix anyone's problems, but I know who can. We have a duty here to be compassionate people. And I love it because you've got the disciples. These guys are tired. They're worn out. They've been on the road. But people are so desperate and so eager to hear the good news of Jesus that they're running after him. And instead of saying, hey, I'm tired too, and we're on our way to a solitary place, and we're on our way to some quiet time, and I need some rest, and I need a break, and I need a time out, and I need a vacation, and I need another moment, and I don't want to deal with another person that has issues, and I can't take anymore, and I can't handle it anymore. What does Jesus do? He's compassionate. If we want our lives to model Jesus, we have to be compassionate, which means we cannot be complacent. By this time it was late in the day, so his disciples came to him. This is a remote place, they said, and it's already very late. Send the people away so they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat. I love that. That's what I do, right? I'm like, Jesus, I'm tired. I know that they want to have something to say to me or do with me, but I want you to send them away somewhere else. Send send them to a neighboring countryside, somewhere else, to get what they need. Oh, what Jesus says. He said, but he answered, you. You give them something to eat. Isn't that how that often happens in our lives when we're talking about Jesus? Right? We're praying about something, or we're seeking something, or he's working and he's moving in our lives, and everything's surrounding us and is pushing down on us, and the pressure's coming in. And what we say is, Jesus, send them somewhere else. And he says, no, you're supposed to be compassionate. You! Amen. Yeah. He says, you. You do it. You give them something to eat. They said to him, that would take more than half a year's wages. Are we to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat? How many loaves do you have? Jesus asked. Go and see. When they found out, they said 5 and 2 fish. Then Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties, taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven. I love that. You know, things change when you just look up to heaven. When you just look up to heaven, because what are you doing? You're acknowledging who he is. I love that song. We're going to lift our hands. I'm going to lift my hands till I can reach heaven. I want to reach for him. I want to reach for him. I want to connect with him. I want things to change in my life. Then he gave them to the disciples to distribute to the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. The number of men who had eaten was 5,000. Important to note there that some of you have undoubtedly heard, but we numbered the men there at 5,000. It's estimated by some scholars that upwards of 20,000 people were fed from 5 loaves and 2 fish. That's a pretty incredible moment, right? It's a pretty miraculous story. Like we said, this is one of only 3 miracles reported in all 4 Gospels, which means that's like the flashing lights. Stop and pay a little bit of attention. This is a big thing. This is a big moment. And I think we all have this desire for all of these great miracles in our lives, but sometimes we get stuck. I do. We get stuck in these moments. If any of you have an iPhone and you kind of message on your iPhone, or Facebook Messenger, you know, Facebook Messenger, I can't stand that they do this. I don't know why they do it. There's some psychological reason where they're playing with our minds that they do this. But when you send someone a message and they begin to type back to you, these bubbles appear. I hate the bubbles. You know, it's like, do I wait for the bubbles to stop and the message to come away? And like, if you text my mom and the bubbles appear, it's like 40 minutes. And you think that she just wrote a novel and was going to say something really important and that it was going to be perfect. And she said, like, tomorrow. It took 40 minutes to type tomorrow. Like, autocorrect got her 7 times and she wasn't sure what to do, you know. But we hate the bubbles, right? And you always hate the bubbles when someone sends you kind of something important and your initial reaction is, I'm going to respond right now. But then you think, oh, I should probably pray about that, so I'm going to delete it back. But what if they saw the bubbles? So now do I tell them, like, I'm going to respond more fully later? Like, what do you do, right? The bubbles. It's a total mind trick. But the bubbles are this moment between when we submit our request, right, and receive the response. I'll borrow this analogy, but it's too good. It's just perfect. How often in our own lives do we get stuck in the bubbles where we've sent something to God? And we know that He's got it because He's God. We know that He received it, but all we're getting back is bubbles. And we're like, God, are you a slow timer? Like, and sometimes we see the bubbles and then the bubbles disappear. Right? And we don't like to admit it, but the truth is sometimes He starts to give us the answer and then we kind of get out of whack a little bit. He's got to wait for us to realign ourselves before He can give us the response that we want. And sometimes there's no bubbles, and sometimes there's bubbles, and sometimes there's no bubbles for long periods of time, and sometimes there's bubbles for long periods of time. I know. There is something in my life that I have prayed about passionately, intently, boldly, every single day for in excess of a year, and I don't have a response. He heard every one of the prayers. He received every one of them, but all I'm getting back is the bubbles. And then when you need to hear from God, when you've got something urgent, and all you're getting back is bubbles, that's a tough place to be in, right? But the truth is, sometimes we put ourselves in the bubbles. The truth is, sometimes He's waiting on us so that we can get out of the bubbles. And so I want to talk about 3 bubbles that we often put ourselves in. Important bubbles here. Number 1 is the bubble of comfort. Notice in verse 31 it says, "Then because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to" what? Eat. You send me to work without lunch, and I'm going to get hungry. I want to eat. Food makes me comfortable. It's a good place to be when my belly's full. I like to break bread with other people. I like the fellowship. I like the camaraderie. I like to be comfortable. So much so, my wife got sick this week. Like, for real sick. And so I had to take over as lawyer, pastor, full-time dad. Like, I can't do it. I told her when she started feeling better yesterday that she should just get a job. Taking care of those 3 kids all day, every day by herself. I don't know how she does it. I really don't. I would strangle her. They would live in the backyard in some pens if I had my say. I mean, like herding cats. They're out of control. They're needy. I mean, they need something all the time. But because she was sick, I got the kids to bed Thursday night. And I had gone upstairs into kind of a room that I use sometimes. And I thought, I need to get ahead on my studying in case I get sick and don't have as much time as I normally do on Friday and Saturday to do my studying. I do a lot of studying on Saturday and Sunday mornings and just finishing work and final details. And I thought, I may not have that this week, so I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to get myself ready. This is pretty late. By the time I get the kids' baths and in bed, it takes like twice as long as it takes her. She's masterful. I'm not. And so I go upstairs, and we love to be comfortable so much. And upstairs, it's like an ice box. We keep it freezing cold, and I love it. I love every moment of it. But we have this leather recliner, okay? And I don't have a shirt on because I'm at my house by myself. Y'all don't judge me, all right? And I spent like 7 minutes trying to figure out how to sit in the chair without getting my back cold. Because I like to be comfortable. Nobody likes to sit in a cold chair where your skin touches the cold chair and then you get cold. Right? We hate discomfort with a passion. But here's what happens. We become so consumed with being comfortable that we run from conviction. We love to be comfortable because there's no conviction in comfort. We've become a people, myself included, that we hate to be convicted to do something. But here's the truth that I want each and every one of you to leave with and understand is that your calling is hidden in conviction. So if you want to do what God's called you to do, you're going to have to expose yourself to some conviction, which is going to make you uncomfortable. Now, if I were to start this sermon with the simple question of who wants to fulfill God's call in their life, everyone would raise their hand. But if I say who wants to be uncomfortable, all the hands go down. If I say who wants some conviction in their life, boy, we shrivel up and run. We run from some conviction now. I get it. I grew up with a lot of conviction. That was just how church operated when I was a kid. You left convicted. I don't care. You could be as close to God as you've ever been. You would leave convicted. You just did. I understand that Jesus is merciful and that His grace is sufficient. I'm not hiding from those things. What I'm saying is, if you want to find your calling, you've got to experience some conviction, which is going to make you uncomfortable. Notice what Jesus said to the disciples. They said, we're hungry. We're uncomfortable. Send them away. Send them to someone else to feed them. Find someone else to do the work. And He says, you. You don't think that was convicting to them in that moment? Could you imagine Jesus literally looking at you face to face and saying, you do it. You fix it. You solve it. I'm right here to give you everything you need. But that's what he's saying to you each and every day, that he puts that breath in your lungs. And as we talked about last week, he puts the breath in your lungs so it can flow through you. And then he replaces that breath with his grace. We have to be willing to be uncomfortable. Number 2, we live in the bubble of certainty. In verse 37, it says, but he answered, you give them something to eat. They said to him, that would take more than half a year's wages. Are we to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them? They're asking a question because Jesus says, you go and do it, which means the provision is there, but they don't know where it is. Are we supposed to go spend half a year's wage buying it? What do we do, Jesus? We're uncertain. We're unsure. We don't know what comes around the next corner. Anne Lamott, author of Plan B, Further Thoughts on Faith. I love this quote. It says, the opposite of faith is not doubt, but certainty. Certainty is missing the point entirely. Faith includes noticing the mess, the emptiness and discomfort, and letting it be there until some light returns. The opposite of faith isn't your doubt. In fact, doubt is a great tool of discovery. We've talked about that several times here. The opposite of faith is certainty. In your moments of absolute certainty, you don't have to have any faith. But can I tell you something? The miraculous doesn't occur in the certain. God's miraculous works never occur in certainty. There's a cold hard reality that I had to accept at some point in my life, which is that God doesn't give all the details. Boy, we wish He would, don't we? When I was studying for the LSAT to get into law school, there's a portion of that test called logic games. And it was what I was absolutely the best at. I mean, I'm like 99th percentile in the country on logic games. My mind tends to work in that way. I took a bunch of philosophy classes. I like that thought process. I like the logic process. But what happens is sometimes I become so logical that I no longer feel logical. I no longer put God in the equation. Because I want to be certain. I want to know exactly what it is that's coming next. I hated whenever Kristen would go in to give birth to all 3 of our kids, because I would lose all control, right? I'm zero part of that process, other than for love and support. I have zero control. I'm not the doctor, I'm not the surgeon, I'm not the anesthesiologist, I'm not the nurse, I'm not the mom. I got to pick what song the guy played on the iPod. Seriously, he let me. He said, what kind of music do you like while they do the surgery? That really happens, in case nobody's ever been in an OR. That's not just on TV. They really play music in there. But that's all that I can do. But I want you to think about the moments of, the greatest moments of your life. Giving birth to that child, or proposing to your soon-to-be wife, or the vows at your wedding. What are they filled with? Uncertainty. You don't know exactly what's going to happen when you go in to give birth to that child. You don't know exactly what the answer is going to be. Even when you think you do, you don't know for sure that she's going to say yes when you get down on one knee. When you're saying the vows, you think, what if she turns and runs? What if the goober in the back stands up and says, I object? What actually happens then? No one knows. No one has a clue what you actually do, so why do we ask the question? But the most miraculous moments of your life are always filled with uncertainty. If we let ourselves stay in the bubble of certainty, we're not truly experiencing faith, because the opposite of faith is not doubt, it is certainty. The last point, if I could get the praise team back up here. Us from the miraculous moments in our lives, it's the bubble of calculation. In verse 38, Jesus says, how many loaves do you have? Go and see. When they found out, they said, 5 and 2. We all have a 5 and 2. And what these disciples are saying inevitably in this moment is that 5 and 2 don't add up to 20,000. 5 and 2, Jesus, they don't get us there. 5 and 2 doesn't work. Everyone in this room has a 5 and 2. Somebody in this room has a child that you're desperately praying will come back to God. You say, yes, but man, they've been away for 5 years and they've made 2 big mistakes. Yeah. And it goes back to that logic game when we forget to be theological. You see, what happens is God says, y'all aren't very good at math. And I'm not. See, he operates in multiplication. What he says is it's 5 loaves and 2 fish times me. My marriage has fallen apart, man. We've had 5 bad years. 2 near divorces, yeah. But if you'll put God in the equation, then the 5 and the 2 gets multiplied by His infinite ability. Some of you have an addiction, a problem that you're struggling with. You say, man, I've had 5 years of addictions and 2 relapses whenever I got clean. But when you multiply the 5 and the 2 by God, it covers up all of the miscalculation of your life. See, we're in a constant state of sending and receiving with God. Sending and receiving. We send our prayers, He gives us direction. We receive the direction, we respond in obedience. We respond in obedience, we receive His blessing. We receive His blessing, we share it with others. I love this part of the story. Jesus takes the 5 and the 2. That's not enough. And He looks up to heaven and He blesses it. And instead of taking all of the glory and all of the credit and seeing every face light up whenever they got a full stomach, what's He do? He puts the miracle in the disciples' hands to disperse. You see, God wants His miracles to be in your hands. He wants to take your 5 and your 2. Your miscalculation and make it a perfect calculation. He wants to take all of your comfort and He wants to completely mix it up. He wants to take every ounce of certainty you have and say, I'm not worried about what you can do in and through you. I want you to be uncertain because it's in those moments that I can do the miraculous in your life. Are you receiving and responding? Are you receiving what you're supposed to do? Responding in obedience. Are you responding in obedience and then receiving His blessing? Are you receiving His blessing then sharing it with others? Plenty of moments in my life that answer is no. I didn't get all of the parts. Maybe I was talking to Him and receiving, but I wasn't going in obedience. Or maybe I was going in obedience and I was receiving His blessing, but I certainly wasn't sharing it with others. It's full circle. The miraculous still happens, let me tell you. He's still in the miracle working business. But we've got to get out of the bubbles that we put ourselves in and align ourselves with His Word. Let's bow our heads and close our eyes. If there's anyone in this room that would just say, I don't yet know Jesus. I don't have a personal relationship with Him, but I want to. We're not going to embarrass you. We're just going to say a simple prayer with you. If you would just slip up your hand and say, I want to know Him. If there's anybody in this room that would say, I'm stuck in a bubble. My life, I'm always seeking comfort, and I'm always seeking certainty, and I'm always saying that 5 and 2 don't equal 20,000. I'm never putting God in the equation, just slip up your hand. I just want to pray with you. Dear Heavenly Father, man, we thank you that you're still in the miracle working business, that your power still reigns, that you're still capable anytime and every time of doing all things. God, we ask that each and every person in this room would become willing to be uncomfortable, that they would have a faith that says that everything doesn't have to be certain, and that they would say, yeah, my 5 and 2 is incomplete, but not when I put you in the equation. God, I ask that you would use each and every individual in this room, that you would send them clear plans for their lives, and that they would step out in obedience and faith and fulfill it, God, and that they would then receive your blessing, and that instead of hogging it all, they would share it with others and let the miracles be performed through their hands. It's in your name we pray. Amen. If everybody would stand up, we're going to sing one more song. If you have a need in your life, any kind of need, and he's still in the miracle working business. The reason that we lay hands on people is because he wants the miracles to flow through us. It's not because we have a special power. In James chapter 5, he specifically speaks of anointing people with oil, praying over them. What it is it's our acknowledgement of his power. If you just want to come forward, Michael and I are going to be down here. We're going to pray with you. Let's worship him.